Hi everybody, this is Meredith Herrenbrook. I'm with Living Your Awesome. I wanted to do a video with my friend Ashley Hayes, who is a good friend of mine and colleague. And we're just going to be chatting about mindfulness and alignment and kind of all these words that maybe some people have preconceived notions about, or we're boxing them into that they belong to only a particular group. And so we're just going to be chatting about, what Ashley teaches. She is a yoga instructor, among many other things. And so we're just going to get started. So Ashley, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Beautiful day to be here.
So tell me about what you do, and then we're going to get into kind of the next chapter of how you help introduce ideas to other people and move them through the process of while you're teaching them yoga and so forth.
Sure. So as she said, Ashley Hayes, nice to see you all. Happy day, whatever it is, wherever you are. So I've been meditating since I was about 10. That was a very integral part of my youth. Something that was very important to my mother as a child to really teach me mindfulness. I was always very excited, a very athletic kid, always liked to have a lot of energy, and oftentimes kept moving, probably the early version of ADD, to be honest. And it was one of those tools that my mom realized quite early that I really needed to harness and be able to be really mindful of my breath at a really young age, and to be able to calm myself down, to be able to check back in and ground myself. So that was an integral part of my youth, really, from one of my earliest memories, is how to come back to the breath. And I started teaching meditation to other kids when I was about 15 in a youth group. Ended up leading a few different, very large meditations for, probably like 5,000 kids in different organizations, which was a lot of fun. And so from there, started doing a lot of yoga when I was probably about 15, 16, and then have been a longtime practitioner, became a teacher about 4 years ago. And this is all in tandem with, obviously, professional things as well. And then realized that there was a huge part of me that was really called to harness a lot more of that in my professional setting as well. So now teach for the last few years in the city at various different studios, mostly at this point Equinox and Glow Yoga in North Beach. And both have been wonderful places, especially I think the Equinox side of really integrating a lot of these ideas of mindfulness, of balance, and of how to do that in a way that doesn't seem so high level, but a little bit more mainstreams for even the people that are, the tech guys that are working more hours than most of us would ever want to, and really need that moment to tap in, that space to come back to themselves. And even if they don't fully understand it, there's something about that that's really gratifying for me to be able to introduce that to them. I actually just recently in November had one of my first retreats that was all around balance, and it was actually the affirmation of I am balanced.
That's right.
And so it was a beautiful retreat. We had a great group of people for that, and it was actually a fun component where it was both the yoga, the meditation, the mindful awareness of how to become balanced, how to stay balanced, because of course we never stay in permanent balance. It's always that space of the limbo and the challenge to the balance that allows us to come back. It says, okay, we're not there, that's how we come back. And so that was all of that component, as well as aspects of wine. So integrating both, because really, who is only one or the other?
Right.
And having a little bit, so you can do yoga, you can sweat, you can meditate, you can feel fully grounded, but then you can mindfully have that sip of wine, mindfully be aware, and not move into a space of lack of mindfulness, but actually have both. I think that's the integration of balance, is where you can allow all things to have a seat at the table without thinking you can only have to do one and be the most extreme, vegan, raw diet, yoga every minute of the day. I think there's that element of how to make that actually livable and how to bring those to the masses in a little bit more digestible form.
Right. I think too, when you have that, I love the idea of having the wine component, because I do think we pigeonhole yourself into this, I have to have everything this one way, otherwise I am nothing, or I am not good enough, or I am not perfect enough according to someone else. And I think this fluidity of saying, okay, I'm going to, maybe it's eat meat, or I'm going to have an egg in the morning and I'm not going to die. People are, it's going to be okay somehow. Whatever is most comfortable for you and how you want to live your life, everyone has their own solution, what they're striving towards.
Absolutely.
But what I love too is about, and I do drink wine myself, is I love kind of that when you are being more mindful is also you're getting to celebrate more what that wine is, or the process, or the growers, the story, and certain scientists say, well, actually, little wine is okay for you. It's so forth and so on. Wine has been around here for so long. But I love the fact that you're not just saying, well, be mindful, but I think there's that component of you can celebrate whatever you do and be okay with that and find that alignment within yourself.
100%. I mean, that's been a big part of really my existence, is actually like the both sides of the coin. I mean, I have my corporate wellness program and company Mindful Agency, and that's a lot about that, bringing both the mindfulness, the awareness, the movement, the consciousness into companies and homes. But I actually have a whole separate brand that's called Conscious Hedonist, and it's all around the idea of being conscious as you consume. So yes, you're having that delicious steak, that big glass of cad, whatever that decadence is. What have you done beforehand to feel balanced in yourself? How have you moved? How have you breathed? How have you been aware? How have you been, having that food, that wine be something that is integrally important to you, and something that's like, is it something that's been done ethically? Has this animal been treated well? I mean, all those types of components are all an energetic exchange. And the more that you become aware of that, that's where you get more of that construct of people eating more healthy, more consciously, more organic, more local, whatever it is, something that feels better vibrationally for them. And that can be totally different, to your point. Some people think that it's, again, that very, very lack of, like, bare-boned, vegan, raw world, and that's beautiful for them. Yeah. I personally can't do that. And I think we're both in the same boat there.
We are.
And it's how do we then find the way that feels the best for us, that still isn't the mindless consumption, that the wake up, eat, the bag of Cheetos the first thing in the morning and just not pay attention to anything you're doing. And if you think of days like that where you wake up and you might not have had a morning moment to have a deep breath, to have a meditation, to check in, to turn the gaze inward, how different that changes the day, where you then go into the mindless consumption. Sure, I'll eat that. I don't need to care about that. I don't need to move today. And I think it's honestly from not being aware from the beginning.
Really, really good point. And I will tell you that I've been trying to get back into this mindful awareness, waking up in the morning. I have 2 lovely daughters at home, and I have dogs and things to think about and businesses to run, and there's a long list, as we all have this long list. And I said, okay, well, for about maybe 3 years, honestly, I was like, I'm too busy to be mindful. I've got too much going on. I have, right, and there will be those times where that's kind of really the reality. And so please don't beat yourself up at all.
Oh,
if you're just starting, if you are just going, I want to do one thing during the day to just be a little bit calmer, a little bit more taking the time and slowing down, or taking a breath for myself. And there's this guru who I have worked with over time. He's up in Sonoma, California, and so Babaji, he says, just take that first breath in the morning.
It's huge.
And he said, just think about being grateful for that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And don't do anything else. You don't have to do all these big things and climb mountains and meditate for 50 days straight and drink only water. He's like, it's not about that. And that's what I want to just add to your point of, and kind of get into more of, is when you have these newer students or people who are struggling and trying to find what that balance is, or even what balance is, what are some of the first things that you talk to them about, just to kind of start breaking away the preconceived notions and kind of get them into a better state for them?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you actually hit the nail on the head about the breath. It all comes back to the breath. It's one of the greatest gifts on the planet, because here we are breathing without even being aware. We're every single day, we're breathing thousands of breaths. We don't pay attention to most of them. It's so rare that most people actually take a moment and like, okay, conscious inhale, conscious exhale. And that is yoga. That is meditation. That is the moment of awareness where you actually pay attention. And whether or not you, again, sit in the Himalayas with the mantra beads, with going fully into the mala beads with the mantra and being fully immersed into that. You actually don't need to do that. Yeah. That's a beautiful path. That's where you need to go. But the yoga, the meditation, that first sip of it is simply being aware of the breath and tapping in. And that's a question I always ask in my class the second you sit on the mat. Okay, let's arrive. Let's be here. Let's be fully present. And how we tap into being present is the breath. The greatest gift we can give anyone, most especially ourselves, is being present. We spend so much of our time in the past in worry, and that's what worry is thoughts of the past, or anxiety, and that's concern of the future. And rarely are we actually present in that moment, and the best way to come back in is to consciously inhale, consciously exhale. I firmly believe that the world would change if more of us actually took 3 deep breaths a day, where we were conscious of each of those breaths. And in doing so, it allows us to no longer be in the reaction state. We no longer, whether it's our partner, our children, our job, or we're upset, we're triggered, we're hurt, whatever it is. Okay, can I take a moment, take those 3 deep breaths, and come back, reassess. Is this still that hurt? Is this still that pain? Is this still that same reaction? And that can be, again, off the mat and as well as on the mat. The same thing of being in balance is having yourself, if you're moving into a balanced posture, if you're moving into something that it might not be as easy for you, it might be more of a challenge. The breath is what gets you there. The breath is what keeps you there. And there's so many times I've seen people struggling and they're like trying to move through things and really trying to push themselves because they see everyone else doing it. And that's not the way. That's not the way to feeling better, to feeling connected, because that's all about everyone else. Turning the gaze inward, breathe. Okay, where is my practice today? And that practice can be whether you're moving or not moving. Simply coming back in, do a body scan. How's my body doing? Okay, all right, so my little left hip, oh, there's a little tightness there. How can I breathe into that left hip? How can I move today to support that? Same thing of moving into the awareness of the mind. How busy are my thoughts? Am I all up here? Am I lost in all of my thoughts? How can I take the breath to come back a little bit? The breath is honestly in so many practices, in so many religions, in so many spirituality realms, the breath is the game changer.
I absolutely agree with you. And I want to add into the some of the struggles that I have had and some people might have, and with this kind of preconceived notions, which I really want to get into, is when I was thinking, oh, one meditates, no one has to sit quietly and not do anything and just don't think about anything. There's this phrase of kind of like the monkey mind. Okay?
Yes,
the mind will keep on monkeying on. And so I wanted to say, okay, there is the mind, there's the brain, there are the visions that keep crossing your eyes or your mind. And they will always keep coming, wherever they're coming from, either internally or maybe you're actually just noticing whatever is happening outside, whatever that is. It's the greater focus is, one, the breath. When you're focusing on something so intently, not tightly, but intently, without grabbing and grasping, but when you are just going, okay, I'm just going to keep breathing, and what does it feel like? What are you noticing in all parts of yourself? When you become more all-consumed with all those details, your mind is focusing now on this, and it doesn't have a chance to be able to focus on that. It will always be there, but how do you just relax into, not struggle, but how do you relax into knowing that it will be okay, even for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Not 5 minutes. Don't try for the 5-minute mark. Don't try for the marathon. Just go and lose the judgments, lose all of it. And it does take time. It might take a year to go, wow, I did 3 seconds. Cool. So it's so I like the idea of kind of not struggling so much and being so hard on ourselves. Right?
So important.
We have tons of stuff going on, but why don't we just relax into it, find maybe joy in it, rather than we've got to get an A on our paper.
Sure.
I think this society is, we have to strive and we have to do well and we have to struggle to achieve. And I think kind of that mindfulness and that relaxing into, I just kind of fell onto that phrase right now, but just how do you just then focus and just kind of let it move on its own, and just go, oh, we're gonna float away. Breathing in. Oh, that's right. Okay.
It's all the breath. I mean, and I think in that breath,
beautiful.
it's not about negating what you're feeling, right? It's not about trying to push it down. Like if you're in that pain, if you're mad at the boss, at the partner, whatever it is, it's not about denying that. In fact, I think it's actually the opposite. I think the breath allows us to take a step back and say, here are the suite of emotions and thoughts and reactions I have. Here, it's a land sometimes. Like here's my past pain, here's my trigger, here's my child trauma, whatever it is. Here's all of it. And that breath allows us to take a step back and allow it all to be there without having to only choose one of those avenues. And saying, okay, I see it all here. This breath allows me, I mean, this has been my life's work for a long time. Several years have been invested into this process of allowing all of the emotions and thoughts and needs and wants, all of the ego, everything, and not choosing one. And the best way I've found is by returning to the breath and taking a step back and saying, okay, I see this is all here, and that's okay. It's not about denying it. It's not about saying that didn't exist. I'm not hurt. I'm not angry, whatever it is. It's about allowing myself to see all the different options. And then the breath gives me that chance to be like, okay, I'm not in the reaction state. I'm not thinking now I have to hurt back, or I have to say this, or I have to, it's about taking a step back and saying, okay, what makes the best sense for me? And oftentimes I found it's just simply being quiet and breathing and saying, I see all of this. Maybe this is more work for me to do. Thank you, universe, for giving me something else to heal, for something else to move through. Right? I mean, we are humans. We know that we're still alive because we continue to have more things to heal. That's just our path. That's what we do.
It is. And to add on to that is the breath also, from what I've learned, is the breath actually moves energy. It doesn't just move molecules of oxygen and all that and fill in, give nutrition to your cells. It's actually moving energies. There is an exercise that you do on breathing, and you breathe into, kind of just in general, there's a very specific breathing pattern that happens. And what was so amazing was that knots that were in my body, or pain that was in my body, when there was just a breathing, it was actually shifting really long ago stuck knots that at the end of this were gone. And it was really astounding because how can breathing do that? Oh. So I think we have all this chronic inflammation and all these things in our body that how much healing can actually the breath do?
Oh, it's everything.
Right?
It's everything. I mean, there's so many studies that show that when we're on our phone, when we're on our computer, we only breathe the top half, like the top little percentile of our lungs. And we're hunched over and we're breathing into our throat, which is a terrible place to breathe. And that's why most people are hunched over, most people aren't really expanding. And that idea of pulling the shoulders back, of sitting tall. And one of my favorite things to do is have a hand on the heart and a hand on the belly. Mm-hmm. I think this is honestly like giving yourself a hug, like a breath hug, and breathing into the hands and really calming yourself down. That is actually proven to lower heart rate, our blood pressure. It brings everything down. I mean, it truly proves that we can heal ourselves, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And it's simply by, again, that conscious breath and feeling and tapping into the hands, tapping into the awareness. And even if it's something where having your hands on your side ribs, on your low back, and breathing into the different areas of your breath and getting out of the throat breath.
Yes, I think that's wonderful. So that's my youngest daughter right there. So this is reality and life at its finest right now. So I'm just going to keep that rolling because this is what life is.
This is.
One thing that I've been kind of playing around with and I want to learn more about is like when you are having your hand up here, maybe it's like I don't know if you do maybe dominant hand on the upper and then maybe less dominant down here. But what I've been playing around with is the idea of that you're creating circuits. There's this thing of the idea of mudras where you put your hands together in certain...
they call them locks. The mudra is a lock in English from Sanskrit. Okay. Yeah, to give that good awareness. Yeah.
Thank you. So, so there are different mudras that will help rebalance and reconnect and so forth to different parts of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go, okay, well, you're kind of creating a circuit.
Absolutely.
You are, when you're grounding, you're creating a circuit of energy, literally, physically, electrons going down, which minimizes inflammation in your body and so forth. But what's also happening with your hands here? You're creating this circuit, you're creating movement.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than just being, okay, I have hands and feet and I'm out like this, like the Michelangelo, man.
Yeah.
But what is really going on that you can really heal with that? I don't know, it's just something I'm curious about. Really, there's maybe more happening here than just
so much more.
Giving yourself a hug.
We're on the tip of the iceberg of what we can find on that.
Right.
And I really think, to me, it actually almost looks like an infinity symbol, to your point of the circuit.
Right.
And that really allows us to bring back in another one of my favorite mudras, which is escaping me right now, but where you put your hand on your heart and your hand on the earth. And that's incredibly grounding. And that even if it's just your fingertips, especially if you're, not as long-limbed, just having your hand on the ground and closing your eyes, or even having it on a tree, having it on something that's anchoring and rooting and grounding. I think anything like that, there's so much of nature that heals us, that brings us back in, and having our hand on the earth and our hand, it just kind of okay, I'm here. Especially when I think that's a really beautiful space and expression when you're struggling, when you're in a space where you're in the reactive, where you're not able to pull back, you're not able to see that it isn't about you, you're not able to live the 4 agreements constructs, right?
Right.
That, I think, really is okay, all right, breathe. This might not be the easiest moment, but my breath will bring me that space, even for that moment of freedom. And yeah, I might go right back to the pain, but let me take just a moment to pull back for just a second and say, no matter what this is, I'll be okay.
Right. So thank you, because what hit me when you said that was when you're taking that moment, you're kind of going back in time to a place where you were okay. Mm-hmm. That you know that this pain or this struggle at this moment is temporary, may not be permanent. And then just that reintroduction of, okay, I can make it because I know that at one point I was okay. And probably, most likely, at some other point in hopefully the near future, I will be okay again.
Absolutely.
And so that breath is reminding you, oh, that's right, body, mind, spirit, energetic body, I've got this.
Mm-hmm. Totally. It goes back to what we were saying before we were talking about the comfort in the discomfort.
Yes.
And that has been something I've really been, just kind of nursing in my head and really kind of chewing on. Both when it's a practice on the mat, postures that we might not feel comfortable with. Sometimes the ego is like, oh, I don't like to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't like doing that. I can't do that. All of the busy, again, the monkey mind that challenges us and says, no, you can't do warrior 3 with your hands above your head. You can't do crow. You can't do those things. Why would you even try? And it's that moment where you can actually be like, but is that true? Who said that I can't do that?
Possibility.
Oh, for sure. There was, for years, I had someone that once said some passing comment, a teacher in college that said something about how I couldn't do arm balances too well. They're like, oh, you probably shouldn't do them. And it was something that I was like, oh, well, then I guess I can't do arm balances.
Ouch.
And I just kind of chalked it off my practice. I didn't try them, didn't ever attempt them. And I finally had a really amazing teacher, Mark Morford, one of my favorite teachers of all time, at a retreat. And he said to me, he's like, why aren't you doing those balances? You're clearly strong enough. You have amazing practice. What are you doing? And I was like, well, I can't do them. He's like, have you even tried? Have you even challenged that discomfort? Have you even pushed into it? And I was like, well, no. All of a sudden you get that, and we're like, wait, why haven't I tried that? And I realized it came back from this, passing judgment from someone so long ago. I don't remember their name, but it stuck in my head that I couldn't do it. And it was the funniest thing was after he almost allowed me to have the space to attempt. Right. It was like one after another after another. It was like boom, 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 all of these crazy arm balances. And to this day, it's actually one of my favorite parts of my yoga practice are my arm balances. And one of my most favorite things to teach are arm balances. And it's really from that overcoming of the discomfort of being like, you know what? Just because someone else had this judgment or just because I had this judgment doesn't mean that needs to be my reality now. And it's one of those it was honestly a beautiful gift, really, to be able to say, okay, here's something that I thought I couldn't do. Here's something that felt so uncomfortable because I thought I would fail. I thought it wasn't possible. And sure, there's days where it might not feel the best. There's days that 8 limb pose can only go on one side and not the other, and that's okay. It's, again, that lack of attachment, another major component of yoga. But the discomfort the comfort in the discomfort of seeing that and being like, okay, there's my edge. That's where it is today. Maybe tomorrow it's different. Maybe the next day it's different. But how do I dance with it? Instead of feeling like that's defeating me, how do I welcome that in as my partner, as my teacher, to say, what do you got for me today, discomfort? Where's my pain today? Where's my loneliness? Where's my sadness? How can I welcome that in to then learn, to heal, to move, get over it?
Right.
That's it.
And some of that discomfort is from others that we internalize so much, and we do that from our parents who are trying to raise us the best they can and keep us safe and loved. But we go, oh, well, you shouldn't climb that rock. And I get caught in doing that, and I go, I don't want my child to get hurt. It's a natural thing.
Sure.
Are they ready for it? When do they, kids naturally push the edge of comfort all the time because there is no edge for them. And you have to be that edge, very realistically. And so I'm learning.
You want to keep them alive. Yeah.
You kind of do. You bring them into this world, and you like their company and all of that. But so as parents, you create that edge for them, which you need to do. Mm-hmm. And then there's that dance. But then it's how much do we internalize and not push that edge anymore because some authority figure, parents, teachers, whoever it is, people on TV who have a perspective of what worked for them. Mm-hmm. But how much do we really internalize? And so how much do we have to challenge ourselves just to look through, oh, that's not mine. Oh, that's not mine. I can let that go.
It's the best.
That's good for them and great for them. And I'll tell you, as being 42, and it's okay to say that. But they're
and looking amazing.
Thank you very much. But there's this, as you get older and you're dealing with older parents, and you get to these plateaus or new arenas of things that I previously thought I had to live by. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was my parents' perspective. That was great for them. Mm-hmm. It was great for them. I learned these new ways. There's not only one way to do it. And then to let it go.
And forgive them.
And
not hold them to that. Not be victimized by their judgments, which I mean, that's one of the greatest gifts, is to realize that our parents have tried the best they can, even those that we felt pain from, we felt hurt from, whatever it is. I think actually, I mean, that's been a great gift for me, sitting with a lot of plant medicine, has actually been for me to realize, wow, I wouldn't be sitting right here if it wasn't for every single one of those things that happened to me beforehand. Mm-hmm. So in fact, I'm grateful for the pain. I'm grateful for the lessons and for the edges that other people and judgments and whatever else, the friction that other people put onto me. That same youth group that I was in high school, there was a great quote where a girl was saying how her father was a very abusive alcoholic, and that she was saying that she actually realized that what it was that he was sandpaper, and that it was actually just allowing her to refine and smooth her own edges and her own pain and help her heal through it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where you actually become empowered by your pain. You don't be victimized by it. You're not internalizing it as like, this is all about me. This judgment, this pain from someone else is my wrong, is the thing I've constructed to be, that that's how I am, this judgment. But instead of actually saying, wow, I'm so grateful that I had that pain, that I had that abusive alcoholic father in that example, whatever it is, for it to allow me to push through and be right here, right now, in this moment.
Without those experiences, you might be a very different person. Still amazing and awesome.
Sure.
But to have those struggles, you do become a stronger person. You do become more resourceful. And maybe there was a time where you felt the struggle was so insurmountable that you couldn't move through anything. But then once you take a breath, you ask the universe in a way, then sometimes it's like, oh, and it comes in these small little tendrils of, these little hands of offering you, here's a little ease, maybe a new resource, there's a new beautiful
teacher.
Here's a teacher. And so it reminds me of this story of this monk let's say it's a Buddhist monk who is teaching a young monk kind of the ways of the world and about struggle. And so he's told to plant 2 trees and water them every day, but shake only 1 tree. Shake it every day. Everything else is the same sun, same soil, and everything else. And over the span of a few years, this young monk is learning that this tree that he's shaking every day is a little taller. The trunk is a little wider. It's like, oh, well, you have to be stronger, right? You have to have greater grounding. And all the results of this tree ended up becoming a taller and stronger tree because this tree had to adapt to what, these experiences. And I think that's how we are going through life, is kind of that which doesn't kill you does make you stronger.
100%.
And so I love you talking about this edge that you're talking, that you teach your students about pushing to that discomfort, leaning into that discomfort. Because if you don't lean into it and really embrace it and always avoiding it, then how are you going to actually grow? How do you grow? How do you get beyond it and move through it?
Without a doubt. And there's a really important aspect to that, which I know a lot of yoga teachers would be like, but wait, it's important to know the difference between discomfort and pain. Especially when it's in the physical capacity or in a relationship. You don't want to move into so much discomfort that you're in pain. Yeah. But it's one of those things where how do we, again, go full circle, go back to the mindful awareness of, is this discomfort? Is this something that's challenging me in a good way? Even if it doesn't feel the best, like right now, is it something that I can kind of sink into more? And again, that could be on or off up at the mat in your own practice. But if it moves into pain, that's a whole other ballgame. And that's where you only can get to that, you only can know by being aware. And so, something like what I was saying before with when we were chatting earlier, something similar to the edge of closing your eyes in tree. That's something that many people can just jump up in a tree, no problem. Even after a couple of glasses of wine, which I actually enjoy doing in my retreat. Like, how does this feel now? How's your balance and alignment now after a glass of wine? Right. But the same thing with Remy's very happy with it.
Very happy.
But with tree, where I especially challenge my advanced students to say, okay, how do you dance with that discomfort so that maybe you close your eyes? And that changes the entire posture, where you have to be in full alignment and you can't be anywhere else. You can't think about tomorrow, think about your date, you can't think about your job, you can't think about anything. You have to just be right there, holding that posture, breathing, but not clenching, not tightening, not being in pain, but being present with all of it, with all of the whole circus of emotions and thoughts.
Right.
It's huge.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
I'm a big fan of it.
What I love you saying too is even your advanced students, and what I kind of want to end with is that no matter what, we're all students. We're always learning. We will always have circumstances that bring us up and down, and you maybe at the end of the day you might feel a little defeated. Take a breath. What were those great things that you felt? Gratitude. What are those high points? What are those things that really made you sparkle? What made you kind of bring out that sandpaper and polish a little bit more? And then tomorrow's a new day to take that breath again and go at it again. I think sleep is one of the most amazing things that we can have.
Oh, yeah.
And if we don't have that restorative medicine, if it was just one long day, I don't think we'd get very far, to be honest. No. So what are some of the final things that you really want people to come away with? We have people from all over the world, from all sorts of religions, walks of life, cultures, and that I think the breath is really universal. And spirit actually means breath when you translate it, I think, from Sanskrit. Yep. And so when you talk about spirit, that I used to think, spirit is, part of the Holy Spirit from Catholicism and so forth. Well, that actually goes way deeper and way beyond that. No matter what the word is or what is happening is, we have a human experience. We have breath, we have movement, we have all these, we have spiritual, we have emotional, we have mental, physical. We're all trying to work it out
Yep.
throughout each moment.
Mm-hmm.
What's some final things that you really want people to understand or feel good with?
Well, I mean, it really is, it's so funny that you're saying all these different layers of self. In yoga, we call them the sheets, the koshas. And what's a beautiful description of it is that in order to achieve enlightenment, and whether that's the permanent enlightenment of a Buddhist monk, or it's simply a moment of actually being present and in being in bliss, is that you move through all the levels of koshas. So the very first one is actually the breath. So you give the breath something to do. That's the pranayama, that's the conscious breathing. Once you have the conscious breathing, you can give the body something to do. That's the asana practice, the yoga practice that we think of as in the Western culture is yoga, is the asana practice. Once you have the breath, the body having something to do, it allows the conscious mind, the ego, the monkey mind, to relax, because it's no longer having to be in charge. It's no longer having to tell you all the judgments. Sure, it might still be there, but maybe a little bit less, maybe not as strong. And once you do that, it allows the wisdom to find some space too, because now they don't have to compete with the loud ego that's yelling at everything and trying to make everything tell you what to do. And that's when you move to the space right below enlightenment, Anandamaya Kosha. And that's the bliss sheet. And that is the most beautiful space. Like if you come after a practice, you come after a long run, you come after something that makes you feel alive, something that makes you have the goosebumps, that makes you feel like you are full of sparkle, star essence, whatever that is for you. That space right there, the more that we can sink and breathe into that, and more that we know that that's a possibility for us, even if it's not the best day, even if we're not in balance the whole day, the more that we can move into that bliss space, the more that we know that that's always available to us. That's always an offering. And it always comes back to the breath. So the best thing we can ever do is every day have a conscious breath. Maybe it's just one breath when we wake up. Maybe it's a breath when we fall asleep. That's a great place to start. Another good tool that I've given to a lot of students, friends of mine, is the gratitude journal, which is a really cool tool, where every day you wake up and you say, what would make today awesome, which is totally in line with you. Right. What would make today great? What would make me feel good? So it's almost moving into the manifestation realm of things.
Right.
And talking about what you're grateful for in that morning as you wake up. And at the end of the day, you go back to the very same page. It's really easy, 1 page per day. You go back and say, what were 3 great things that happened today? Nice. What one thing could have made today a little bit better? And it's having a moment to document it, be conscious of it. Again, the mindfulness of being in real time, but being grateful. Because in gratitude is where we receive more abundance. That's where we're in our highest space of manifesting, is that we are looking at all that we have. Everything, even if it's a bad day, even if you're stuck in traffic the whole time, even if the boss yelled at you, or you dropped a can of milk, whatever it is, it's having that awareness to say, but at least I'm here, I'm breathing, and I'm okay. I have all my fingers, all my toes today. That's a great day. And having that awareness allows us to bring in more goodness. And who doesn't want more goodness, right?
I completely agree. I love it. I love it. Ashley, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love this. Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. We are going to be doing a little bit of cross-pollinating here. It's going to be on her website. It's going to be on my website, on YouTube, and so forth. So please, we'd love your comments. We'd love your ideas and feedback. We want to know what works for you, what doesn't work for you, anything. We'd love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day in gratitude. Thank you, Ashley.
Absolutely. Be well.
Okay.